All right. Now, let's talk about the defenseman. Because I think I have no idea how to handicap this battle for you. On the left side, it's much easier for me. I think Ryan Shea has looked very good this preseason. His rush and setting up Kindle last night was exactly what you'd want. I mean, Shea can play on all three pairings. He's playing confident, playing assertive. He's playing fast, and he's playing crisp. Skating away from trouble, skating away from forecheckers, but not doing so recklessly where he's just taking the puck and skating until there's no skating left. It's with intent. For my money, Ryan Shea makes the team easily at the expense of Ryan Graves. I do think if there's a lefty you're going to have to sacrifice, it would be Graves. Just for the silly penalties that he's taken in his couple or a few games this preseason, for the way he's played the last couple of years, he's just going to have to sort of deal with his comeuppance, at least in my universe. He's had a better training camp. His gaps have been better, and he's bodied up near the net. I don't know. The last couple of regular seasons have been so rough that it's tough to erase that from the memory banks, especially when Shea is sort of claiming his spot. Parker Wotherspoon has been great. We all sort of wonder, geez, why hasn't Matt Grzelcyk signed anywhere? When you see Grzelcyk compared to Wotherspoon, like, oh, what a difference. What a difference that has been. And I think that's the way it's going to be. Wotherspoon is probably going to play with Erik Karlsson. And I did not get nabbed for speeding. I guess you probably couldn't see in the white. There was an ossifer sitting back there. Whew. I guess that's what you get for setting the cruise control at an appropriate speed once in a while. Anyway, Wotherspoon has been really good. 6'1", $190, $195, and just plays like it. A little bit of physical, plays quickly, crisp passes, very much like Shea. Has Mike Sullivan used to say about Ryan Shea, he's got some moxie. Okay, I'll go with that word. Sandpaper, just, a bit of jam, not a ton, but enough that you notice that Ryan Shea won't back down. And Wotherspoon kind of has a very similar game. I think Owen Pickering has to be in the NHL. If they sacrificed him to the AHL, first of all, you could knock me over with a feather. But second of all, you begin to wonder about the organization's feelings about him long term. So he hasn't played in a lot of preseason games. It's important to set expectations for his game. This is not a 40-point defenseman. This is not a 200-hit guy. This is a defenseman. I don't know that Owen has entirely come to that conclusion yet, and maybe he shouldn't come to any limiting conclusions. Maybe that would be really stupid on his part to not strive to be, a 40-point, 200-hit guy. But what I really see him blossoming into is just as valuable. A real Marcus Pettersson type. A guy who's about 6'5" with a condor's wingspan, a good hockey IQ, who can take away lanes, who can defend at the net, who isn't going to try too hard, or I shouldn't say try too hard, try too much, doesn't get beyond himself. That's Pickering's biggest challenge to me, is having the confidence to stay within himself. He's done that this preseason. When he did that last year for, say, 20 games, easily an NHL defenseman. Whether he's the defensive piece on a top four pairing or whether he's a bit more assertive on the third pairing, I don't know. Now, the right side, any one of the back four guys could could make the roster and there'd be no argument. You're looking at Connor Clifton, Matt Dumba, Harrison Brunick, even Jack St. Ivany. St. Ivany has been the least of the four. So I can probably confidently say he's going to lose the battle. Doesn't mean he should. Doesn't mean he deserves to. It just means the Penguins have some better options there. Let's start with Connor Clifton. Here is a guy who has over 200 hits in each of the last 3 seasons. Now, he wasn't crazy about his season last year with Buffalo. He played 73 games. He did find himself in the press box. His career high is only 23 points set a few years ago. So it's not like he's going to put up a lot of points. But you've seen in the preseason, the guy hits everything that moves. Everything. You have to like that. And what he told me after the game, where were we on Monday? Was Monday Columbus? Or was Wednesday Columbus? No, we were definitely in the Columbus locker room. Listen, the games are already blending all into one gelatinous blob for me. You're like, no, Kingerski, it was this game, that game. Listen, they're all, each town looks the same to me, the movies and the factories. Clifton said, listen, I'm playing primarily against third and fourth line guys. They're going to finish their checks. It's important for me to bring that element to them. The Penguins did acquire him via trade for Connor Timmins. So, what are you going to say? Ordinarily, he'd be slotted as the third pairing guy. But then, as we mentioned, Harrison Brunick. Last year, he faltered in the last preseason game or so and didn't make the squad. This year, he clearly is too good to go back to junior. The NHL and CHL did not or have not come to an agreement to allow a 19-year-old in the American Hockey League. So, kiss that goodbye. You'd have to think if that deal were going to be made, it would have been done. Or at least teams would be apprised that it's close or, to make plans in the eventuality that it comes to fruition. It hasn't. So I don't think the AHL is an option for Brunick, which creates a real sort of problem. He's going to have to earn that third pairing spot. Not only is Clifton playing well, Matt Dumba is playing really well. Dallas in its very buttoned down, structured defensive game under Pete DeBoer, under Pete DeBoer, and Jim Montgomery, I should say. No, it was Pete DeBoer all season. Forgive me. It just wasn't for Dumba. So, putting him in a Penguin sweater, turning him loose, you've seen how well he can play. He really can use his feet to get out of trouble. He's got the vision. He's got the hockey sense. I know it's preseason, but he's looked every bit an NHL defenseman. Now, he and I had sort of an uncomfortable moment. Not of my making. Listen, and for the first time, it wasn't my fault. But I talked to him, Sunday morning. I wandered over and we had a chat. And I just asked him about his thoughts on the battle and being embroiled in it and, how you handle that. And, he started the cliche answer. You try not to think about it. You don't want your head to go there. And then his head went there. And his voice sort of trailed off. And you could see he was seeing the possibility. And I felt terrible. Listen, I don't like to interrupt players when they're speaking. That's, But in this case, I interrupted him. And said, well, geez, I didn't mean to ask, didn't mean to make it uncomfortable. Let's talk about something else. He's like, no. And he regrouped, but you could see in that moment that he realized it was possible. That was uncomfortable for me as well. Believe me. I'm not there to, stir up trouble. I don't shy away from hard questions. And it was a, valid, honest question. How are you feeling in this battle? What are your thoughts on it? How are you performing? As I asked Ryan Shea basically the same question, and Shea was 100% positive. Shea and I talked for several minutes. I only had him on the record for like 30 seconds. And that's just because I kind of got the one quote that I needed, how much different his mindset is this year, how much more assertive and confident and comfortable he is playing on the left side. Now, Mike Sullivan had him on the right side almost exclusively because that's what the Penguins needed. Now that the Penguins have more than enough right-siders, he's getting a real shot to show what he can do. And, maybe a tangent here, we'll get back to Dumba. This is, Shea's first chance in the NHL to show what he can do in his natural position. He was sort of buried in the Dallas organization for a few years. Kyle Dubas rescues him. Dubas has an encyclopedic knowledge of some players who deserve a shot, to Dubas's credit. And Ryan Shea was one of those guys he went right after and plucked out of the Dallas system. He's now 28. You can't call Ryan Shea a prospect, but by the same token, he's not played a lot of NHL hockey. And where his ceiling is, you actually don't know. With Dumba, you do know where his ceiling is. He's a 30-point right-handed defenseman who's kind of an all-round guy. I think that moniker of an athletic, offensive sort of guy has faded into a more reasonable, 25 points, do some penalty killing. If he has to do, some power play 2 work. But otherwise, he's just going to be a guy that fills a role on your right side. Probably in this case, third pairing would be a perfect third pairing. So between the three, Brunick, Clifton, and Dumba, I have no idea what the Penguins will do with that. Because don't forget, every player you keep past the 13th forward and past the 7th defenseman means somebody else who's deserving has to go. It's going to be a long night when they sit down to start making final decisions. There's going to be a player or 3 who get that call who definitely don't deserve it. In fact, as I tell you that Harvey Pinard deserves to be on the roster, he's very much in danger of being one of those guys who gets that call. So Kevin Hayes' injury status will certainly play a role. I shouldn't speculate. I can tell you that Hayes left rink 2 on day 1 after getting thumped by Ryan Graves, sort of favoring his shoulder/arm. I was sitting over on rink 1, and it looked like he was getting help walking. But once you kind of put it in context that maybe his shoulder or, his arm were injured, what I saw as somebody helping him walk was actually somebody sort of steadying, balancing, bracing, his arm, kind of in a sling fashion with both hands. So there's no guarantee that Hayes comes back in mid-October. There's no guarantee he doesn't need surgery and all of that can come with a shoulder injury. That can be, a bit of a nightmare, especially for a player in his 30s, and especially for a player who's on the final year of his contract. If you've got several years left, maybe you try to play through something. Maybe you fight through a nagging injury all season and take care of it in the off season. But if you're facing the final year of a contract and you have to sign somewhere else next year, maybe you get it taken care of now so you have the end of the season. These are all possibilities. And we still really don't know what the deal is with Rutger McGroarty. We just know an upper body injury. We know there is no timetable. We know that Kyle Dubas said because of his age, they were basically letting him rest. They were just sort of keeping him out, and they don't want him to have a nagging injury at this point in his career. So makes sense to me. But a timeline? We asked again Monday or Sunday. Still no timeline. I think I've hit every bubble player. If I've missed one, you can drop one in the comments. Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, do all of that. And I've probably killed 30, 35 miles, and I appreciate you hanging out with me here on this podcast. No pucks given here on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms, and download it everywhere, including Odyssey. And we thank you for your support. Have fun.